we're here for a yin and flow class. So we're going to start with the yin. Generally you want to do yin yoga before your muscles are really warm and pliable because we're aiming at the connective tissue. So we're going to do a couple of different poses that are oriented towards the hips. We're going to start with a butterfly. Now you have two choices with the butterfly. You can put your feet together and then lean over your legs and let yourself have a rounded back or sort of rounded back. You can build up some props so it's not so rounded. And if you feel like, kind of stretching your back in that round shape would feel really nice, that would be a good option. I'm going to do the reclining version, the reclining butterfly. So to do that, I'm going to lay on my back. I've got a handful of props because they're useful, a couple blocks, a blanket, and I'm going to use a pillow here. So you can lay down on your back, and I'm going to create a little lift. So I'm going to put something under my back to kind of elevate my chest, so I get a little bit of an opening around the shoulders, and that'll help. If you've been kind of, like I sleep curled up in a ball, so that it helps me in the morning to open up, and then if you spend any time kind of leaning over a desk or a sewing machine, it's also useful. So any pillow will do. This is a long little bolster. You could also use a throw pillow. You could put a rolled up blanket, roll a blanket up, put that down, and that'll work. So whatever you've got at your house. And then I like to position myself so that my rib cage is supported, but my low back has a little bit of freedom. And then feet together, knees open. Now with this shape, gravity pulls a little more for me, so there's a little bit more sensation in the inner thigh. When I do this sitting up and leaning over, it's more about my back. So for you, just pick the one you like better. If the arms go out to the side, you might feel that more in the bigger chest muscles. If the arms are a little closer in, it'll be deeper in the shoulder and a little less sensation. Just pick the amount of sensation that seems like a good idea. If it's too much, you can slip something under your knees, like a couple of little throw pillows or a couple of blocks, whatever you have at your house. We're aiming for a little bit of sensation, but not so much that it feels like we're being torn apart or that we are tensing up to try to hold ourselves. You want your body to be able to really let go and relax into the shape so that you're feeling that sensation, in my case, inner thigh, a little bit of chest and shoulder. And then if that gets softer, I'll go a little bigger with my shape. But otherwise, right at that point where you feel it is where we want to be. Relax and breathe. You can lay down on the floor without anything under your back. It just gives you that little extra bit of opening if you have it. Now with yin we stay a while, so we're going to be here for a few minutes, about 3 minutes. Your mind tends to kind of go into places where, like, it's doing little problem solving or making little lists, stuff like that, stuff you gotta do. Try to remind yourself just to be present in the moment. That's what this whole thing is about. It's just come home to yourself, come home to the moment in your body. So you can pay attention to the sensations, you can pay attention to the breath, you can pay attention to your surroundings, like the feeling of air against your skin, or the smell of, the whatever you might make for breakfast, or just anything, whatever is going on. Just be present for your experience. I love to pay attention to the breath. It's really fun and interesting. for a wee bit longer. About another minute or so, not quite. Pretty close. Yogis. We're going to take 2 more big breaths. Now, I'm going to bring my knees together first, and then extend the legs. If you're seated, roll up first, and then extend your legs. And then I'm going to do a little back massage, and you can do any, like if you're seated, you could do like some little seated cat-cow shapes. You can do, oh, it feels nice. You can do some, you know, like little rib cage movement of some sort that will feel really nice. Or you could stretch out and do this. I mean, that would work too. Just take a minute or so to move in ways that feel nice to you. I like to do little twisty shapes and little things that get my back into different, slightly different configurations. And then we're going to come up to a seated position if you're lying down, and if you're still sitting, then you're just going to hang out. We'll join you. So however you want to get there is fine. So generally within the way that I work it is you do a pose, you kind of relax, stay a while, and then you come out and you wiggle, you move. And the movement part is less prescribed by me. You can do whichever movement is right for you. But, you know, consider the areas that you were feeling sensation and try to bring a little bit of movement. So a little bit of movement to the inner thigh, a little bit of movement to the spine, a little bit of movement to the shoulders. That's kind of what we're after. All right, so we're gonna take the legs out in a V. For some of us, the pelvis tends to rock backward when in this position, so there's a couple of ideas. So you could take a blanket and fold it up. This one had a ferret in it, so I've gotta refold it, but you could fold the blanket up, you know, so you've got a little bit of height, like an inch or an inch and a half or 2 inches of height, and then sit on the blanket and slide right to the edge. So your sit bones are hanging right on the edge of the blanket, and that will tilt your pelvis forward a little bit, and that might be the right answer. Or you can bend the knee. So this is a smaller blanket, but if I had a little thicker one, it might be a little more dramatic. So this is just gonna be a tiny bend. But if I put a little support under my knees, and just be mindful it doesn't feel pokey under your knee, then having that little bend might allow your pelvis to come forward. Some people are gonna need quite a bit of bend. And you don't have to have your legs as wide apart as they can go. They can be a little closer together to create a little bit more freedom there of movement. Now, to start with, we're just gonna do a twist. So legs are in a V, sit up nice and tall, turn to one side, doesn't matter which one. And I'm gonna try to figure out where can my arms go and maintain that, because I have short arms, they don't really touch the ground. So the blocks are helpful. But if your arms are long enough for them to touch the ground without you having to lean forward, then you can do that. We all work with what we got, y'all. So we're gonna pause for a moment, and I'm gonna try to relax my legs as best I can. I will find the muscles kind of kicking on now and again, because that's more my habit, is to do this in a more yang way, a little more energetically. But for yin, I try to get my body to let go of tension wherever it's holding it, so that I position the bones and the tissue in a certain way and then breathe. And what is unique about yin is the length of time that we hold the poses and the point at which we hold the poses. pose at the edge, which means, and there's some misunderstanding about this out there in the world, but it means where you feel it, okay? So when I twist, there's a point where I feel the twist in my back. That's where I stop. Now, that can shift because fluid moves from one part of my disc to another, so that the spine will accommodate this shape. And after a while, I may not feel that twist in my spine anymore, and then maybe I twist a little more, okay? So that's where we kind of surf the edge in a yin pose, is by making these little tiny adjustments. Now, if we go all the way to the point where we almost can't stand it anymore, or then what happens generally is the nervous system fights us, and we start to tense up. And when you feel muscles, especially muscles in your face, because that's the kind of mirror to your nervous system. If you feel tension around the forehead, around the temples, in the jaw, or the mouth, that means that you're probably a little bit past the edge. Now, that being said, that kind of tension can be habitual. That is referred to in the snarky online world as resting bitch face. So essentially what it is just a mask of tension that we hold because the world is a hard place to be, and you're holding on to that tension in your face. So avoiding that is what we're looking for. We want to kind of create a situation where we can feel open and relaxed and a little bit peaceful. We don't have to have the mask for this class, or yoga in general, hopefully. All right, so we're going to take 2 more breaths where we are. And I'm always really surprised by how lovely it feels to have been in a twist for a couple minutes. So just before we do what we're going to do next, just unwind for a second and see how your body has responded to that twist. Can you feel how it's kind of still feels like it's turning in that direction? And then within about 30 seconds, all of that will start to soften and the fluid will move back around in the discs. That's actually what we're after. So we're going to fold forward. When we're stretching in general, but definitely with yin, what we're after is fluid movement. Okay, so we're folding forward over the same leg that we were just turned toward. So when we compress our tissues, stretch our tissue, like ask our tissue to do certain things, what we're really trying to get is to get fluid to go in between the layer of muscle, where muscles touch muscles, and to get fluid in between the skin and the top layer of muscle. And so the skin has layers to it, and underneath the layers that are our skin, our dermis, epidermis, and epidermis, is a layer of fascia that holds the adipose tissue and the skin together. It kind of goes up through the adipose tissue that lives under our skin. And so in underneath and around that fascia is a substance called hyaluronic acid. And you may have heard of hyaluronic acid because they like to put it in wrinkle cream so that when you put it on your face, fluid flows up to the surface. But what happens in our body is that pulls hydration into the tissue. And so it seems that if we hang out with a pose for a while, it increases the amount of fluidity, right? The fluid that lives in those layers, probably because in some way we're stimulating hyaluronic acid production. That's the theory currently on board right now. We'll see how things change as science keeps going with us in this direction. So we're going to stay here for about another 2 minutes. So for me, this is a hamstring, like I can really feel the hamstrings. I've got a little bit of this inner thigh still happening. And so there's, my back is fairly free. I feel more sensation on this side than on the other. But for you, this could be a story about your back. And you can certainly back off if it feels at all dangerous. Listen to your own instincts on things like that. Can I be in this pose, feel something, and stay relaxed? Is the question that I always kind of keep coming back to in my body. Connective tissue doesn't like to be bullied, so we're not going to get our tendons and our ligaments to immediately go, oh, okay, yeah, I'll give you 3 more inches. They have to be coaxed and mostly, again, what we're really looking at is getting hydration in between the layers. That's really what we're up to. We've got about 30 seconds left here. I like the way the breath works in a pose where I'm kind of pressed into my thigh. It has to find new homes for itself, so it squishes out through the sides. Instead of lifting the navel, it just moves my side waist. It's pretty cool. Okay, big breath. Hold that in, come all the way up. And then we'll pause for a moment. You can lean back, bend your knees. Let's give our legs a little bit of a break. A little bit of movement. Oh, that feels nice. Can you feel the difference in the hamstrings on the leg you were just leaning over versus the one you haven't done yet? And for me, this is how I know whether I was going too far or if I did a good job. So if it feels kind of pleasant and weird and like, I would describe my left leg as feeling a little bit fluffier than my right leg. I know that's probably a weird word, but it feels lighter, a little bit like a little bit cloud-like in comparison to the other side, which has very little of that sort of sensation, uplifty, light sensation, but it's pleasant, right? So if it's pleasant, then probably we did okay. I can't guarantee it, but probably. If it's not pleasant, then we probably should try a little different next time and try to do a little less or a little different angle or add a few more props and see how it goes. So we're gonna sit up nice and tall. If you're not ready to go to the next side, don't. Like, pause for a few more minutes. And then all we're gonna do is just twist until we feel the twist in our back, and then we're gonna pause. I'm gonna try to figure out, like, where do my arms wanna be? And put blocks there, because we're sitting up. And sometimes when I do this, like, I can feel my pelvis trying to shift with me, so I'm gonna try to let my pelvis stay heavy and relatively neutral. So this is this part of the pose is about my spine. And then when I fold forward, it's about pulling on all the apparatus that holds my hips and my legs and my back together. And don't forget the deep breaths, yogis. So it'll be easier to keep track. Now, on my right side, I have a shoulder. I had an injury many years ago. It's been 17 years ago, maybe. A long time. It's been a long time. And it still has a little bit of scar tissue that lives between my shoulder blade and my upper back. And sometimes, especially in the morning before I've gotten that moving, I can feel the resistance, right? So right now in my twist, I've given myself that little extra bit right up to the point where I feel something. And so what I'm feeling is the resistance of that shoulder blade moving. And so I'm gonna pause there and just breathe. And sometimes what inhibits us in our bodies is old injuries. Sometimes it's our genetics, like the shape of our bones. Sometimes it's, fascia is very sensitive. There are more nerve endings that send information back to the brain, more sensory nerves in the fascia than there are in the muscle. Muscle tissue nerves tend to be the nerves that tell it to fire or let go. But the sensory nerves, the ones that tell us what we're feeling, those are mostly in the fascia. And so if we just stop where we feel that, then sometimes, that will either soften or the signal will get a little weaker and we can play with it. All right, you guys, we have 30 seconds left here. And for me, like that shoulder just softened, and it's lovely to feel that kind of softening. Now, if I play with it, I can still notice that there's a little trigger point action going on in there, but mostly it feels better. Okay, so if you want, you can come out of the twist for a moment, kind of jiggle. I'm gonna roll that shoulder blade around on my back and try to get that softening. Oh yeah, that softening action that I started to feel. Oh, that feels good. All right, so we're turning. Hopefully it feels good in your body too, y'all. But in any case, we're folded over this leg. And again, you fold over as much as you can fold over. This sit bone tends to get a little lighter when I fold this way. I try to just get soft and let everything kind of ooze into the ground a little bit like wet sand. I like using the blocks as armrests, but you don't have to have armrests. It's just kind of nice. This side's a little more sensitive for all kinds of reasons, probably related to that same thing I was talking about. I don't know if you've ever tried to, like train a new, or if you've gotten a new pet, especially a pet maybe that you rescued, and it takes a while for you to kind of make friends. You have to prove your trustworthiness, that kind of thing. That's kind of, to me, what the body is like. Is that, most of us, at least probably, have in some ways used our body relatively unconsciously. We just kind of, like it's always been there. It did whatever I asked it to do, especially in my 20s. But now, it's a little bit more reluctant to go along with me on some of these ideas that I have. And so it feels like I have to sort of prove that I'm trustworthy sometimes. And so if we kind of think about our poses that way, where we're easing into them, we're trying to approach the pose very sweetly and gently and kind of prove our trustworthiness to our nervous system, it's nicer. Our experience is a little bit more gentle. So we're gonna stay with this guy for 2 more minutes. Just about. Let's see how it evolves. About 30 seconds left here. So I'm going to take a big breath. And then come up with your inhale. Oh, all right, then we're gonna lean back, rinse out the legs. Rinse out your torso a little bit. So that's our yin for today. We're going to do some other kinds of delightful things for our bodies, but that's enough of the yin kind of approach of hanging for a long time. So what we're going to do is do some movement, and again, I'm not necessarily going to prescribe that movement to you, although I'm going to do some cat-cow shapes on my hands and knees, and I offer that to you. But if you would rather stay seated, or you have some other notions about how to move, you can certainly do those. So we're going to do some flow yoga now that we're Hopefully, we've got some hydration going in our tissue. So the flow is a little more yang, a little more active. So I'm activating my abdominal muscles. So I've got some little action going there. All right, I think I'm going to do 1 or 2 more side to side. One more. Okay. And then I'm going to go into downward dog, and downward dog may or may not be a good pose. If it is a good pose for you, then just build it from the ground up. So hands about shoulder distance apart. Some people like their hands turned out a little bit more, some people in a little bit more. Feel that out with your shoulders. Once you get up, then play a little bit with the shoulder line. So some people are going to find it's nicer if their shoulders are a little closer to their hips. Some people will find it a little bit better if it's a little closer to the ear. And just find the place that feels solid and engaged with your upper back muscles. And then once you've got your upper back nice and steady and strong, then you can start to play with the lower body, maybe heels up and down. At some point it'll feel nice to walk yourself into a forward bend, and so you can do that. I'm going to give myself a little shake here. So any remaining tension from my neck, and then I'm going to come all the way up. And you can take your time kind of finding your upright position, correcting any wardrobe malfunctions that have arisen. And then we'll let ourselves find our home in the practice once again. At one point I had a hair clip, but I have no idea what happened to it. I'll have to go looking for it. All right. So I'm going to mostly face sideways at this point because it's a little easier, I think, to see. Let me get my mat a little damp because it'll be stickier. All right. So I'm going to find mountain pose because this is, I think, it's sometimes one of the most underrated yang poses, but everything begins here. So if your feet turn forward, then notice what that does. Because for me, my feet generally turn a little bit outward. So if I turn them directly forward, I can already feel that in my hips and knees. And that might be it might be sensation because I have gotten used to standing a certain way, or it could be that I'm feeling the resistance in my bone structure. I don't know the right answer, but it's interesting, okay? So then I create a little bit of core integrity by getting a little taller, feeling myself kind of knit my ribs and my hips together. Try not to lock your knees out so that there's this nice energetic flow there. It doesn't feel too, we're not cutting off any blood circulation or anything weird like that. Let your shoulders relax. And so there's this kind of interesting balance between holding the pose, and all this muscle action that I'm doing, and also relaxing and being in the breath. So I like that kind of balance of the yin and yang. Take a nice big breath. Now you can sweep your arms out to the side if you have room. Come on, straight up, fold forward. Inhale, come up halfway. As you exhale, we're going to step back with the left foot. I'm going to put blocks underneath my hands because it makes it a little bit nicer. You can put your hands right on the floor if that's available. Now, we're going to play for a little bit before we come all the way up. So we're going to press the heel back. So we feel that nice stretch through the calf muscles, back of the leg. Then I'm going to roll onto the ball of my foot a little bit more and take the pressure off. So I'm going to press back through the heel, come up, push back through my heel, bending my front knee a little more, kind of makes that more interesting. Come up onto the ball of the foot a little higher, and then one more time I'm going to press through my heel. Now I'm gonna come up, so I'm gonna make sure my knee is balanced over my ankle and that I've got a good base. I'm gonna come all the way up and maybe wobble a bit. Pick the pelvis up as best you can. You might need to bend your back knee a little to make room. Hold it nice and steady. We're gonna take a big breath. Good, so I'm taking my left hand down to that block. You can put it on the floor. Instead, we're gonna pick that left leg up. Add a little twist to this. Hey, buddy. Reach in. Now I'm gonna put both hands on the floor. Lift my left leg as high as my hamstrings on my right leg are willing to accommodate. And then I'm gonna step that all the way back and come into downward dog. Feel the right side and the left side, see if there's a little bit of a difference. And then we'll try a plank. You can hold a whole plank. You can modify your plank. Either way, draw your navel in, lift with the shoulders. We're gonna stay for 2 more breaths. And then you're gonna exhale, lower down. Inhale, come into a cobra. You can do an upward dog if that's your warrior jam. And then push yourself back up and take it back to down dog. Take a nice big breath, lift that left leg up. We're gonna hook it over the back a little bit, sink into the right heel if it's available. Circle that left foot a few times. And then that left leg's gonna step as far forward as it goes in one step. Bring your right one up to meet it. Come up halfway. You can fold if that feels all right. And then come all the way up to standing. Give yourself a stretch. And then find your mountain pose. Notice if there's a difference in the way your body feels left to right, or just in general. Nice big breath. Reach your arms up. Oh, exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, we're stepping back with the right foot. Okay, so I find that lunge. And again, I'm gonna play, so I'm gonna press the heel back as far as I can go without causing trouble. And then right up onto the very tippy tip part of my toes. And then press the heel back. Front knee moving forward a little. And then come on up. And then one more time, we're gonna push the heel back. Stretch into that place. Okay, find a happy medium. And then we're gonna get ourselves up off the floor. Sometimes it's wobbly. Okay. Hold steady for a bit. Notice the difference. If you have a left and right side difference, can you feel that? One more breath. Oh, back here in my mouth. Okay, so the right hands go into the floor or to your block. We're picking that right leg up. And then add a little twist to the left. Reach through your right leg. Whee! Oh. One more big breath. I love this pose. And then we're going to put both hands down and step back into down dog. And just notice. Oh, that feels so good, y'all. Alrighty, we're coming into plank. Hold and steady. We're gonna lower down. Come into your cobra. Beautiful. Now, we're gonna do one more cobra, but we're gonna take the arms out wide so that we've got these little like spider legs. If you don't like that notion, maybe lizard legs would work. Come on up. We're gonna roll the right shoulder forward, left shoulder back. You can look over your left shoulder, and then left shoulder forward, right shoulder back. Right shoulder forward, left shoulder back. Left shoulder forward, right shoulder back. One more time. Okay. So then when we come down, we're gonna pick the right leg up, send that over the top, and then you're just gonna sit up. So I've got to scooch a little. You might have to scooch under your mat. So now I'm facing the back of my mat with my right leg up in the air and my left leg out straight. So we're gonna add a twist to this. So you're gonna sit up nice and tall, energize this leg, bend your knee a little bit, turn towards your right, and then you can grab hold of your leg with your arm or your elbow, whatever you got. Notice if that left leg drops. Try to keep that a little bit alive. Keep your spine nice and alive. Breathe. So this is a little bit more energetic than what we did last time. Trying to hold the abs in a bit. Protect and support that spine. Just get a little taller. One more breath. Let that leg stay active. You're gonna drop your right leg out to the side. We're gonna side bend. So I just tilted myself a little bit. So I set my left sit bone a little further forward, and then we'll side bend out over that left side. Now, it's possible you can get all the way down there and grab hold of your foot, but otherwise, feel this out. Often when we feel crumminess in the shoulder or the neck here, it's because we're trying to jam the arm a little bit differently. Take your arm and turn it so the pinky's up, and then see if you can kind of bring the pinky to the downward position and see if that gives you a little more space to stretch into. Just make sure your neck isn't unhappy with you. You can always change the arm. That might be better. Last breath. Good, come all the way up. Now we can relax that leg as we're taking the right one back where we came from. We're gonna do some little cobras. Oh, okay. Arms out like little legs. Left shoulder forward, right shoulder back. Right shoulder forward, left shoulder back. Left shoulder. Right shoulder. Oh, that feels so good. Left shoulder. Right shoulder. And one more time. All right, come on down. We're gonna take the left leg, bend that knee, bring that guy all the way around, sit up. I might have to scooch again, make room for myself. All right, so get both sit bones on the floor. Right leg is a little bit bent, toes pointing straight up, lots of energy around that hip. Twist towards your left. Get it tall, cut that leg back engaged. Sometimes if you don't pay attention to that right leg, it'll decide to get all soft on you. So pay attention. And breathe. Two more. Alright, so we're going to unwind. I'm going to drop this knee out. I'm going to turn just a little bit so I've got a little bit of a diagonal. And then we're taking that right side bend over the right leg. And kind of keeping that leg energized. Working in a way that sort of feels appropriate for your shoulder, your side waist, your low back. I like little pulsations, little moves in and out of the pose, especially for yang practice, right? If that's the name of the game, yang is more active. It's a kind of bright, shiny principle. So whatever makes you feel shiny and bright. One more big breath. And then we're going to come out of there. We're going to take ourselves all the way back to the belly. And then just give your shoulders a little warm up, a little rinse. We're going to take a little cobra. Slide the hands back. Anchor the legs. Little cobra. Use your back muscles. One more time, slide the hands back. Little cobra. Good. We'll take ourselves back to down dog. Once we're here, just notice for a moment, get everything connected. Take your right leg up. We're going to kind of hook that guy over. Sink the left heel if it's willing, and spin that right foot. Couple times in circles. And then when you're ready, you'll step it forward. Bring your left foot up to meet it. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Come all the way up to standing. Give it a big stretch. And then we're going to find our way back to our mountain pose. And just feel. Now, one of the things I love about yang is that I feel a lot of kind of hummy, almost buzzy energy in my body. There's a definite kind of vibration to it, a pulsation, if you will. Whereas with yin, it feels kind of lighter and airier. This feels a little bit more fiery, a little exciting. So maybe it is true for you. Maybe I'm making this stuff up. I don't think I am, but you never know. I've got a good imagination. So we're going to put all the weight in the right leg. We're going to bring the right leg into either a tree pose, or you could do an eagle or a dancer, whatever you like. I'm going to do a tree so I can bond with my friends here in my window. Just feel that notion right around where the wobbles are. Just finding the steadiness within the wobbliness. Take a breath, lift your leg up, and we're going to step back to a warrior two shape. So I'm going to let my hips kind of find their way. I'm going to bring the arms out, come on back to a reverse warrior. And then I'm going to start with a side angle, give myself one of those, do a reverse. And then I'm going to take a triangle. Ooh, come back to reverse. Side angle. You can do it any way you want. Come back to reverse. Triangle. All right, now pick one of those poses, whether it's a triangle, a side angle, or a reverse warrior, or just warrior two. And pause. Engage all the muscle. You're like hugging muscles to bones. Feel where the bones ought to go based on the way it feels. One more big breath. Now we're going to turn this, whatever pose we were just doing, we're going to turn it into a wide angle forward bend. All right, so I'm going to start with a bit of a squat so I can let my back cascade forward in a comfy way. This may be how it stays. If you and your hamstrings get along okay, your low back has never had problems with this shape, you can certainly try stretching your legs out straight. This is tricky, be kind. And then you can add whatever little movements seem like a good idea to you, a little surfing back and forth. Coming up halfway and then going back over. To just give myself permission to explore different movements when I'm holding an asana. Like, there's a whole palette of possibilities inside of each yoga pose. Why not explore them all? Why get hung up on the right way to do it? Sometimes the wrong way feels so right. All right, yogis. We're going to turn this whole thing around and step back up to the top of our mat. Come up halfway. Exhale, you can fold if that feels all right. And then, we're going to come all the way to standing. Give it a big stretch. A little jiggle. And then find your way into your mountain pose. And is there a difference between the way one side of your body feels and the other? So we're going to shift the weight into the left leg. I'm once again going to try to make like a tree, and maybe you are going to do your pose. I hope so. We're going to do 2 more breaths within the wobble. And then we're going to pick this leg up and step ourselves back to warrior two. So again, take a moment, just feel like where your hips want to be. When you feel like you're there, a little reverse. And you get to pick the pose that you go into. Is it triangle, is it side angle? I'm gonna do some of each. Coming back. Side angle, my friend. And then you're gonna pick a pose to hang out in. Maybe that's a triangle pose, but maybe it's something else. Get really energized and energetic about it. Take one more breath. And then we're going to melt this pose into our wide angle forward bend. And this one, we're not going to hold quite as long, but it gives you a second. We're going to turn this into a downward dog. And we're going to turn that into a child's pose. Oh, with a little wobble maybe. Oh, that feels nice. Now, we're going to do a little pigeon stretch. I'm going to do this on my back, so I'm kind of ready for Shavasana. But if you would like to do a regular pigeon here, you can do that right there on your belly. So that is up to you, yogis. If you want to follow along with me, roll onto your back. And then we're going to see what happens. Now, I like to have something very tiny under my hips, so I'm going to go with this folded blanket. So I'm just folding it, so I've got about an inch or so worth of height, and then I'm going to pull it underneath my pelvis so that my whole pelvis is supported. This gives me just a little bit of extra stretch across the top of my hip. So that leg's going to go out straight, and this leg I'm going to hug in. And I like to hold the foot sometimes I'll hold the ankle, sometimes I hold the thigh. So it's just up to you which one feels better. Make sure your knee likes you. So I'm going to go for this kind of half happy baby kind of arrangement. And I'm going to really connect my lower leg to my thigh. So I've got my foot flexed, my toes are pointing in the same direction as my knee, so that lower leg is very secure, the knee joint is not being twisted. Then I can concentrate on letting this side reach out. And I get this nice pigeon stretch. So I get this stretch across the front of the hip, and I'm feeling this in my outer, like hip and buttock region where the external hip rotators live. For those of you that don't care about the sciencey parts of things, just in your butt. You might feel it in your butt. And I'm being active here. I'm reaching through my leg. Actively kind of pushing into my hand and creating that structure, and sometimes moving to kind of get to all the little places. So again, no matter what kind of yoga we're doing, we're after this notion that we're going to get fluid moving, we're going to get some movement in the layers of tissue. That's what we're up to. So we're going to take 2 more breaths. We're just approaching it in 2 different ways with this practice. And then you can isolate those clearly, do just yang or just yin practice. All right, so we're gonna let go of the foot. And then, or if you're doing the one on your belly, you can switch out at that side, kind of give yourself a middle ground and do some movement. Oh, it feels so nice. I love the way it feels when you come out of a pose. It's my favorite part of the pose. is the kind of shifting landscape of sensation when you leave the pose. Pose itself has quite a lot of sensation, right? And so the stuff that happens after that is a little more subtle, but really cool. So now I'm going to have the right leg all stretched out. I'm going to get hold of my left foot And again, I'm going to secure my lower leg. Make sure my toes and my knee are pointing in the same direction. This foot is flexed, so I've got my lower leg and my knee secure. And then I can actively reach out through this right side. Now my right side is tighter than my left, a little more muscular. I'm right-handed. I probably do more things with my right leg, like push on gas pedals and stuff, than I do with my left. So it's a little bit more, has a little more muscle and a little more snugness. And again, we're just kind of experimenting. So as I reach out here, I can feel how it's trying to lift my shoulder. So if I roll my shoulder down into the floor as I reach out, now I'm pulling on these tissues in here in two different directions. And I can feel that a little deeper into my torso. It's not a strong sensation, but it's there. Just notice the inclination of your body and where the tug points are as you hang out with these poses. So we're going to stay for about 3 more breaths. And then with your exhale, you can soften this whole thing, let go, create a little bit of movement. This becomes very sensitive. Right in those areas where the stretch was happening is so sensitive when I first come out of the pose. It's really interesting. And then the kind of interesting lightness that occurs after. Whew, I like it. Okay, yogis, so I just took the blanket out from under my hips. I'm going to instead use that under my head for Shavasana. Loosen up my hair knot here. And then when you stretch your legs all the way out on the floor, if it feels like it kind of tilts your pelvis like it does mine, then something under your legs is really helpful. So a couple blocks or a blanket or a pillow like this one, or a couple throw pillows from the couch, whatever you got. And then, I like a little head support. I have a weird knob on the back of my head, so according to a PBS show I watched once, it means that I have Neanderthal DNA, but we'll so who knows? But it might explain why I have trouble operating my iPhone. So we're positioning the head so it feels like the chin is level, and then if you have like a little eye pillow or you have a blanket like I've got here, you can cover your eyes so that it's a little darker. That always makes my nervous system relax a little better. And then let your body relax. This is an important part of the practice. It's letting ourselves really let go and relax. It's how our nervous system integrates everything we've done. It's almost like pushing the reset button on our parasympathetic response. So we refresh our nervous system and allow it to ramp down some of the stress hormone production and let everything come back to baseline. Base camp, as it were. All right, relax yourself as best you can. Unwind your eyes. Let your lips relax. Adjust your arms until your shoulders feel soft. Let go deep in your gut. All that tension you might have been carrying right in that deep belly. Relax the soles of your feet. yet, but do just come back to an awareness of your breath for a bit. Just notice if the breath is making a pathway through the whole body as the inhale drops in. Can you feel it to your toes? Not the toes, maybe the knees or the fingertips. Feel the lightness of the exhale. Inhale moves downward, the exhale has an upward light lifting to it. Notice. Take a really big breath. Hold it briefly. And let it go with a big sigh. And then we can start to wiggle fingers and toes at first. Spread them out, wiggle them. Spread them out, wiggle them. One more time. Spread them as far apart as they'll go. Give them a wiggle. And then move the wrist and ankles. Give your body a big stretch, maybe like a banana on either side. Give yourself a hug and a back massage for the road. It's good to hug your favorite yogi every day. Roll onto your side. Take a moment there. You did it, yogis. You showed up, you did your practice today. Hopefully you feel amazing. Or at least a little bit refreshed so you can go back out there and do all the things you need to do on a Saturday morning. Or whatever time you're watching this, if you're watching the YouTube. So we're gonna take a big breath together. Nice big inhale. Big deep sigh. Namaste, beautiful yogis. Welcome to your post-yoga glow.